Hello, everyone. It's quite fashionable to start late on a Friday night on such a stormy night, don't you think? The show is sold out, and so we were waiting for the last few people to come, but everyone is here now, so away we go. So good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you. We're so happy you're all here. I'm sure many of you have come from afar, and a lot of you are from here, and we're happy you've all come to share in this great commemoration with us. What you're going to see here tonight is the work of the graduating students in one fourth-year class in Costume Studies, the Aesthetics of Historical Dress. Every year, the students in this class carry out a major research project involving research and academic skills, along with applied skills. I choose a theme and an historical period, and the students, using primary sources, identify a person who is an active participant in the historical event being commemorated. Using primary sources wherever possible, they come to know their character. And by that I mean journals, diaries, census records, directories, that sort of thing. Both the class and the project begin in September. It is a full-year class. And they begin by writing an academic paper, which includes a character sketch and something of the setting and the time in which the person lived. While much was written about the ball in newspaper accounts in 1869, no actual guest list was ever found. So because of this, we had to identify people who are very likely to have been there. Doing much of their research at the Public Archives of Nova Scotia in the first instance, each student chose a female who is certain to have been at the ball. It is always much more difficult to find information about females from over 100 years ago, as opposed to males, but the students were very successful, as you are about to see. It is during the research and writing phase for this part of the project that the characters begin to come to life. The students then choose an artifact from a museum or a fashion engraving from the period, which they feel best expresses in dress the character they are creating. They are taught to create the clothing as historically accurately as possible from the underwear out, but to fit the modern body, and in this case it's to fit their own bodies. This class is about women's dress specifically, and my colleague, Annika Henderson, who is here with us tonight, teaches a tailoring class in which several students completed suits of tails for a third-year class. Some of the suits of tails you will see tonight were created in that class. The students have not only created their own characters, but they are portraying them as well, and this is no mean feat. I mean, they are in a costume studies program after all, and not an acting program, but you will see, you will not know the difference. And just before we begin, I want you to know that although you are seeing the work of one class in costume studies, without the work of all the other classes they take, both in costume studies and in the rest of the university, they would not be able to do what you are about to see tonight. My colleagues in costume studies who work with me in the program are Diane Christoph, Annika Henderson, John Penoyer, Katrin Whitehead, and Hilary Doda, who joined us this year to teach one class, and my name is Lynn Sorge. One more thing, which is probably the most important thing of all here tonight. All of us in the theatre and music departments owe a huge debt of gratitude to Fred and Elizabeth Fountain, who, through a large bequest to the departments of theatre and music, enabled us to merge and form the Fountain School of Performing Arts. This has provided opportunities to us which never before were possible, and we are deeply grateful. And I believe they might even be here with us tonight. You never know, you might see them at the reception. So, without any further ado, let us begin. Now, because the ball was in honor of Queen Victoria's third son, Prince Arthur, it seems fitting to open the show with introducing you to the person who's playing the role of the prince tonight, Alan Sinclair. Arthur, 1850 to 1942, was the seventh child and third son of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, As a 16-year-old, he joined the Royal Military Academy, and after graduation, he spent most of his working life as a lieutenant in the British Army. He served as Canada's 10th Governor-General from 1911 to 1916. But as a newly commissioned military officer, at the age of 19, he visited Canada, where he was honored and feted at every opportunity. On August 31st, 1869, he visited Halifax, where the entire city closed its doors for several days to celebrate his visit. One of the events was a military ball held in his honor at Province House on Hollis Street, which was just newly built, actually. Newspaper accounts state that in excess of 300 invitations were sent out, and supper was served for 500 guests. It was a sumptuous and elegant affair, and both city and country dwellers lined the streets in the hopes of catching a glimpse of His Highness. Tonight, Prince Arthur is wearing a period-correct suit of tails, created by fellow classmate Bronwyn Pell, the result of a third-year tailoring class, which I mentioned was taught by Annika. Tails have not changed substantially since they were developed from the coats of the late 18th century. There have been small changes in cut and shape, but they have remained essentially the same garments since the 1850s, when they began to be worn almost exclusively for very formal evening wear. In the engraving on the front of your program, which is a portion of the original engraving of the actual ball, which we found in the London Illustrated News from 1869, Prince Arthur is wearing tails and is the figure on the right. Now, our prince looks just as handsome as does the original on the cover of your program, don't you think? Fall, McNabb. She was 25 years old at the time of the ball and newly engaged to her cousin, Sydenham Howe, son of Joseph Howe. She was born in Cornwallis, Nova Scotia in 1844 and had 8 brothers and sisters. In a letter she wrote to her older sister, Annie, when she was 10 years old, Fanny describes how one of their geese laid 10 eggs, and the hens had laid 18 dozen eggs, of which they sold 9 and used the rest. In this letter, we catch a glimpse of the simpler life she lived growing up. She listens to her sister Sarah's lessons every day, mentions little Mary, who talks a great deal about Annie's visit, and says that Mary received Annie's letter and that they all miss her, and Mother hopes she will come home when the roads improve. Fanny and Sydenham were married in Alderwood, Dartmouth in 1870. She became pregnant with her first child a month after the wedding, and they went on to have 5 more children. Sydenham worked as the Dominion Auditor for Nova Scotia, which was a well-paid and prestigious job. They lived at 96 Queen Street in Halifax, which would have been on the northwest corner of Queen Street and what is now Clyde Street, if you want to place that. 3 years after her marriage to Sydenham, her father-in-law, Joseph Howe, became Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. Life for Fanny was a comfortable one. Her husband had a good job and she lived in the heart of the city. She also had a domestic servant to help with the running of the household, and her mother had moved in with them. Sydenham kept a big scrapbook, and its pages are full of poetry, invitations, and visiting cards. A letter Fanny received from a friend in 1890 mentions a sewing circle and cooking school that she had attended. In 1898, Sydenham was transferred to Kentville as an agent with the Union Bank. He bought a lovely property in Annapolis and started dairy farming. Fanny died in 1920 in Middleton at the age of 64. Now, the gown Hayley chose for Fanny is from a French fashion illustration. And when we heard what the Halifax reporter talked about with the panniers, as he called it, draped up like that, that's exactly what he was talking about. This is it. Doesn't she look lovely? By Johann Strauss.
definitely knows what he's doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, for coming, and please join us in the lobby for refreshments. They'll all be there in their gowns, and you can all have a closer look and talk to them about all the things I did not say.